Well, welcome everybody. That is our cue to get today's session started. Welcome to our first Institute for Disability Research Policy and Practice, Time to Act Substance Abuse Across the Lifespan ECHO. If you've never joined an ECHO session before, welcome. We do record today's session. It will be on our Canvas page as well as on our website. So you can always go back and look at that and get the information. ECHO is an interactive community, so we'd love for you to put your comments into chat, ask your questions. If you're comfortable turning on your cameras so we can all see who is on. But we want you to be an engaged participant in today's call. We also, after our didactic presenter, will talk about a case. And so a case narrative is a great way to just get information of families that you're working with or clients. And we're always looking for people to share their cases. So if you have a case that you would like to talk to us about, please consider doing one of those. We talk about a lot of sensitive information, or we also just are in that FERPA and HIPAA world. So please remember to protect individual privacy. We don't want to know who you're talking about. De-identify those examples and situations. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to a hub member. Each of the hub members have or will have now an asterisk in front of their name, so they're easier to find. Again, if you've not been to an ECHO, welcome to our ECHO sessions. This session, our substance abuse will be held monthly on the second Wednesdays of the month at 12 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We will always have a didactic speaker that talks to us about certain topics. And then we have a case presentation where then we break into small breakout groups and talk about that case and share valuable resources to not only the presenter, but to all of us on that call. It is our favorite part of the session. And that is within our other ECHOs. That's the one that we get the best results on that presenters or participants like. It's hard to say that we're going to be in a small breakout room and that we might be talking, but it is a great and fantastic way to build that professional networking. So when I say we're going to go into breakout rooms, don't hit that leave button. Stay on and join in our discussions. You guys will love it. If you can take and name your profile, again, that just helps us know who's on the call, who we're talking about. So if I had a question, I could reach out to Jamie and follow up on what she shared in the session. So it just, again, builds that community networking. We do have our pre-registration. We will be dropping in the chat today the materials so that you can look at the materials. The materials will be on our Canvas page, as well as we try to send them before and after the session. So always continue to register for our sessions, and you can always reach out at projectscope@usu.edu. We send out a credit for attendance, and that is in response to this survey. We ask that you fill out the survey. It gives us valuable information of how to change the sessions as well as to show what we are doing. And it's a way to keep these free. So please consider filling out that survey, and that's how we send out our credit for attendance. We will be dropping the survey into the chat throughout today's session. A Canvas page is where we store all of our information. You will all get an invite to our Canvas page after today's session. But if you ever have any questions, you can always reach out to projectscope@usu.edu. Case studies, always a plug for those. Like I said, they are always our favorite part of the session. but it's scary to present a case. I guess it's not really scary, but that's what we all think. So it's not scary. It's really easy to do. Just a couple of questions. We have one today that we will be talking about. We do have some social media pages that we share information that we know around substance abuse, that talk about our sessions and just other useful information. So please consider following us on those pages. I'm thrilled today to stop sharing and turn our time over to Valentina. She's going to talk to us about an amazing topic today.
Hi guys, my name is Valentina Sireech. I'm a program coordinator with the Tribal and Rural Opioid Initiative Resource Center out here in the USU Extension office with Office and Community Wellness in Roosevelt, Utah. So I've been working on a project with my dissertation. I'm actually in a doctorate program up in University of Washington, Tacoma. So you guys are going to be the first that I kind of present this to. So it's information that I'm kind of working on, but it's also how we are able to work with diverse communities who are different cultures than us, that have different types of traditional cultures that may prevent them from seeking services or meeting with the provider. So this is kind of an idea that I put together and that I'll be working on and researching a little bit more. So let me share my screen. Okay, so it's I actually titled it Using Community Engagement to Strengthen Tribal and Rural Communities and Breaking Cultural Barriers When Seeking Assistance for SUD. The Power of Storytelling. So we go to the next. So this is where I work at the Utah State Extension Tribal and Rural Opioid Initiative Resource Center. Is a valuable resource center located in Roosevelt, Utah, that caters to communities in the Uinta Basin and statewide. The main objective for the Tribal and Rural Opioid Initiative Resource, TROI, is that what we call it, is to combat opiate crisis that has impacted tribal and rural communities. The center aims to educate the public on opiate prevention, opiate substance use, provide resource, support recovery and treatment, and TROI is dedicated to reducing the stigma surrounding harm reduction and substance use disorder while offering comprehensive wellness programs and promote healthy and thriving communities through Utah tribal communities. So here's the idea that I've been working on. This is actually the objectives that we'll be going through, but it was animal spirits and the opiate response, culture considerations in addressing opiate misuse. So the objectives is the animal spirit, the trickster story that we all hear about, the roles in healing, how discover how the animal spirit and trickster stories can be used in a healing process, and the power of storytelling, how historical trauma and ancestral wisdom, gain the insight of historical trauma and ancestral wisdom, approaching tribal communities with sensitivity, developing skills to approach tribal communities with culturally sensitive, indigenous wellness and healness overall. So that's kind of what I'm going to talk about through this presentation. And I'll go to the next. So as I was doing research in my community, a lot of things come up about how culture is medicine and how culture is a way of helping us in a lot of ways that can help us through the misuse of opiates. So I've actually worked with one of the tribal spiritual leaders within the tribe, and we actually put together this really nice statement about the Ute culture and using the bison and the bear. So the Ute culture, the four-legged animal symbolizes a natural element, and the bison represents the earth. So the bison is a nurturing figure that provides shelter subsequently by offering its skin and meat. The bison guides the Ute people through the harsh winter seasons, demonstrating resilience in the face of adversity. This majestic creature exemplifies the tenacity and strength required to survive in challenging conditions. Following the bison's lead, the Ute people can find safety, security, even in the difficult circumstances. The powerful example of survival underscores the importance of working together and learning from nature to thrive in challenging environments. The bison also protects the sick and weak and help them to lead to better lives. This is exemplified how families should care for and watch over one another. So we, the Ute people, we're called the Nooch, are currently suffering from devastating illness brought on by colonizers. In this illness is disguised as medicine. It's wreaked havoc on our homes and communities. The loss of life has caused a great deal of pain and heartbreak in our tribal communities. The bison and the bear have come together to support the Ute people. The bison's powerful presence is felt as it charges the source of illness with great force, causing the earth to tremble. This rumbling shift of the ground awakens the bear to symbolize renewal and recovery. Together they stand firm in the resolve to help the people overcome this challenge. So this is kind of like a statement that I'm kind of using in a metaphor as using animal spirits. And this is one I actually put together in our last quarter that I had in my program. So the idea is to actually connect. So we're actually now connecting to these spiritual animals. The relationship between the animal spirits and the trickster spirit, so you see here, has led. So I wanted to share, the idea for the treatment. I think that's what I said. I wanted to use stories to create new stories about the connection between the trauma and misuse of substance use and why the spirit is so accessible for the tribal people. And the connection was really important, and the research that I'd done, and that's how we kind of connect to our own culture. If you didn't know that a lot of tribal people and a lot of people on rural tribal lands are now having this really disconnect between their own culture and their own identity, which we found, and which I found through research, is finding that it actually leads to a lot of substance use and alcoholism. So why the spirit is able to access the people is definitely a way of connection. Understanding traditional stories in response to opiate use in rural communities and understanding how we can heal from that is really important. So like I said, I had many conversations with tribal communities and how they said medicine, culture is medicine. So let's go to the next slide, because we're talking about this trickster. So the trickster can come in many different ways. So I kind of put up there, a lot of people think about the trickster as being a coyote or a rabbit or a raccoon, but in a lot of ways, it's metaphorically a coyote in a lot of tribal cultures, but it also causes havoc. It has we all see the coyote as more of a scavenger, but in terms of tribal and traditional culture, that they use this animal in forms of trickster as the mind. So I look at it as the trickster of opiate use and how it connects to the use of opiate. So let me go to the next slide. So this is another way that we put together and how this connects with trauma. So trauma, historical trauma, affects all of Indigenous people and people of color. So the coping mechanism that we've kind of put together as a cultural buffer is our identities, attitudes. So how we actually look at our culture, and also on the side is the health outcomes and the high risk of having alcohol misuse, substance use, and mental health and depression. So this is kind of like a framework kind of put together that kind of shows these type of Indigenous stress coping models that actually can be brought on by substance use. So we know definitely that historical trauma is one of the things that causes substance use. And and how that happens to our communities. I also put in here like challenges facing Native Americans seeking addiction treatment. So there's a lot of things that we think about. I think we kind of know that these are the challenges that we have: geographical challenges, the remote, the reservations. Sometimes the reservations are really remote, like down in the southern Utah. For here, we call an ambulance. It takes about 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours to get there. So we do have challenges in terms of transporting. So that would be ways of how a lot of our tribal people wouldn't be able to access healthcare. Transportation also is a way that they just don't have the vehicles to do that. A lot of tribal people, a lot of tribal departments that we do have here have transportation just for that, but they're very limited, and there's not very many vehicles or employees to do that driving. Urban relocation as well, but they have a good one. If you guys know that the Salt Lake Indian Urban Center is really good. I like the fact that they do a lot of cultural events there, but that's it. A limited infrastructure. That's definitely happens with our area out here. We don't have the rehabilitation facilities that is actually contemporary modern, that can handle these different challenges that are coming up, like fentanyl, and even opiate use is really still hard to understand in different areas of treatment. Cultural barriers, we talked about that, the Western medicine and traditional healing. A lot of times that there's just cultural barriers and understanding that the traditional healing that we do have, some of the tribal members aren't offered that. They might not be able to be set up in different reservations. But I know that the Navajo Nation, Dene Nation, they have really beautiful facilities, and actually a whole framework of how cultural is actually a part of their healing process. And they have one that's called the healing model. And I think that's down in Blanding, but I think that was a really good holistic approach for spiritual healing. So the lack of culturally trained professionals, that's a gap of that is a major gap in a lot of facilities. There's not that many people who are trained, who are Native American, who are trained in substance use disorder counseling. I'm certified, but I'm not licensed yet. But I know that we have a couple here on our area out here in the Uinta Basin. But I just wish that we'd have a lot more that could be in a lot of more of these healthcare professions. Language barriers as well. So a lot of our people aren't able to communicate the way they should. Of course, they speak English, but they also have a way of listening to a person. So we've heard about that. Their eyes are down. They don't look straight in the eyes, and they might not comprehend a lot of things. But the language barrier is definitely there. So you might have staff members who are not able to interpret spiritual and ritual importance. So like I talked about, is Native American spiritual must be considered for substance use treatment, because a lot of things that are happening I know in Canada and up in through Washington and through the in the southern states, like in Oklahoma, in the Choctaw areas, they have really good spiritual and programs that they incorporate into their treatment centers. And they're really, really a great way of looking at a lot of things. I think Sacred Circle has that same mentality too, out here with the Paiute tribe. But having spiritual is really important, because that's kind of where a lot of the holistic healing is coming from, is going towards. Okay, so economic challenges. So poverty is one of them as well. A lot of our people may not have the adequate insurance. A lot of them are Medicaid, or may not have the money for these type of services. It's really a challenge for a lot of them to access the treatment if they don't have the proper financial means. Their unemployment, of course, is real important, that it also hinders the treatment for Native Americans. I know a lot of people who don't actually go to the hospital. So, and they'll say, oh, I went, but it's been like 10 years from, so there's a way that they probably just understanding that being healthy and having checkups monthly is really important. Like I said, lack of insurance is a real big hindering economic challenge that we have. Underfunded health services as well. But I know that we're trying to access and find out where the money went to from the opiate settlement funds that they had with the Native Americans. I just read some literature too that also that Biden had signed some set aside funding for Native Americans for opiate prevention and treatment. So we're trying to access and find where that funding has gone to. Has it filtered down to the health services or filtered down to the tribes? Those are the things that we need to really find out so we can really access this type of funding. And now that we're able to do that, we definitely want to make sure that everybody has access to Narcan and, of course, naloxone training. Oh yeah, stigma and misunderstanding. So the cultural stigma is really important. If those of you who don't know that a lot of the tribal communities, there's a really big high stigma that falls around substance use and people who are under the influence of any type of substance. There's a big stigma about that. They either don't want to work with them or even have them near them. So that's breaking the stigma is really hard and been a challenge for me in working with tribal communities. Even myself as being tribal, I still am not accepted in terms of bringing this type of information to tribal communities. It's still being questioned, like especially Narcan. This is another form of another form of I guess another form of drug. Really don't have an understanding on that. And even with the education that we're trying to give out is still really hard. The misconceptions about addiction too, that is really important, that a lot of times it's complex to really interpret the biological and environmental psychological factor of substance use and alcohol use. A lot of times we do see a lot of our people who are have how would you say it? They have so they're dealing with other mental illnesses and other mental illness like bipolar or misdiagnosed of being depression, being depressed. So a lot of those things go undiagnosed and really end up being then as self-medicating with substance use. So a lot of that's happening now. Reluctant to seek outside help is really one of them as well, that like I talked about, their mistrust in providers and services. That's why I'm working with them and trying to connect in a ways that they do understand with the trickster spirits, with the animal spirits, how they're able to really connect in on their own cultural beliefs. And that's going to be a really learning process. So I'm just really happy that I can start that type of program or that type of research and to really find out why they're so reluctant to seek out help, or why they respond to different type of services and service providers. So it's going to be a really important work. Generational trauma is a ripple effects of historical trauma. That is definitely a big major contributor to substance use. Like I said, a lot of them are misdiagnosed in a lot of mental health behavior problems. And a lot of people don't understand that it is intergenerational trauma. And I think a big part of that is education and awareness. But we don't have very many programs that really deal and really focus on trauma in terms of why a person might be an alcoholic, why they start drinking. I think that they having a lot more programs to really address this will help tribal communities in rural areas really understand that. I think that's just the first, I think that's just barely like scratching the ground on really finding ways that this happens to us. Also, the development of the brain. A lot of people don't really understand that is the brain. It's part of your, growing up as a child, and even being in your mother's womb has started this process of trauma. Limited resource and funding. I think I've talked about that. There are sparse treatment facilities. I think out here with the Ute Indian tribe, we only have one, and that's the ASAP program and the Red Pine residential program, but they're also limited to and faculty and people who are trained. Federal funding and tribal funding, that's the one I'm really going to be researching, because of a lot of the money that's trickling down from the U.S. government and using it for opiate use and treatment. Hopefully we'll be able, to find out more, and then especially to find out where we can actually access where they had promised Native Americans with Narcan. So we definitely want to make sure that we have that available for people here on the reservation. Okay, so yeah, we do have a lot of Native Americans who rely on external factors. So for ASAP's program, they do send out to the Wasatch Front to alcohol and drug and substance use treatment centers. But they also have not access to this type of, this type of treatment with culturally centered treatment programs. That's probably would be more beneficial for them, for their success in recovery, and also into completing their treatments and staying on their treatment plans. So yeah, so there's a lot of things that need to be addressed, but hopefully we can get people start understanding through education and awareness, and that would be really good for our people, and also to understand the culture and understand that we are very different than any others, that we have definitely the stress and the trauma is a big part of that. But these are the research things that I'm working on, and I'm really excited of working on them. And recommendations for improvement. So culturally sensitive programs, I talked about that, increasing funding, partnering with tribal leaders. The better thing, I think a lot of service agents, I'm sorry, I'm probably the only one in the office here, is that we do partner up with a lot of tribal service, tribal departments, with like the health program departments. We also partner up with the local tri-county health departments. We partner up with a lot of the with USARA. We partner up with even local nonprofits like Be the Light out here. So we're partnering up with a lot of people to really come together and sit down and work out a good plan that we can use for all of us, especially in rural areas, not only tribal areas, where we have access to treatment and resources is really limited for all of us. Research and data collection, I think that needs to be really more improved. The last year we were getting research data that was coming out from Tri-County, from the Utah Health Department, that was like a couple years old. I wish that we got a little bit more for the information that we got there. The data research that we got from Tri-County was that the Native American population in Duchesne and Uintah County were only 4%, but the opiate overdose percentage was opiate overdose deaths were 25% for the two counties. So that's pretty high for our area. And I just wish we can get a lot more data. Data really is important, and that can change how you get some funding, because that's really hard numbers. And those are numbers that are not coming from, that you're just assuming. These are numbers that are actually coming from places that are really collecting these data numbers. So like, for instance, I asked, how do we get the numbers for the deaths of Native Americans in how did you get that number? Um, they said that we're just collecting data from the death certificates. So that is really hard numbers. Telehealth services. Oh, I love those. Those are really good because you don't have to really leave home, but you're actually seeing a doctor. This was happening during Zoom time during the COVID. I think it kind of expanded through a lot of the health services throughout our rural area. But I wish they would use this a lot more. I know we do this with a lot of service treatment that we're doing for substance use. We'll do Zoom meetings but I know there's still a lot of controversy on this too as well. But these are things that I kind of recommend for everyone to think about to use with tribal communities. Hopefully I put this presentation together that can kind of give you an idea of what the climate and what's happening and what's reflecting on the tribal communities at present day and what's happening to us now then compared to research that's 5 years old. And I hope to be able to do that and to make sure that we were able to get good resources out there for other tribal communities. I want to thank you guys. These are the photographs that we had for our tribal powwow that we had for our summit. We had a tribal opiate summit in 2022. And I'm going to stop sharing. Thank you guys. And if you have any questions, just let me know.
So thank you so much for that information that you shared. I'm going to just open it up for a few minutes. If anybody has any questions that they want to come off and ask or put in the chat, we will have one question for you, Valentina. As a lot of us actually work in the community, are either providers or clinicians, what are some things that we could do in practice to help support families that are going through this, that have that stigma or some cultural sensitivities?
Like I said, it would be great if your staff was diverse, if you had staffing members who were actually trained in culturally centered these type of services, and to understand that they are carrying heavy trauma that we might not see, and we just assume that they're maybe being angry or uncooperative, that there's a big mental health problem behind that, and that's probably trauma. But having people who are staffed, I think, that can really recognize that and have people who are staffed to understand cultural differences is real important.
Perfect, thanks. Other questions or thoughts? This one is saying, are you available to present at agencies like a lunch and learn events? And so I'm not going to say that name correctly, Rodriguez. So he's interested in bringing this topic to his agency.
Yes, I am. I think the more we talk about it, the more we need more conversations on this. We need to bring more awareness, and even if I'm trying to formulate it and put it together, it's still going to grow and get stronger. And the stronger that we get this information, I mean, the better we get this information out. The conversations are real important to have with everyone.
Yeah, I completely agree. Wendy, it looks like you came unmuted.
Yes, I have a question. So I live out in Uinta County, and I have been working on making a connection with the Tribe Head Start. I've gone out in person to visit. But Valentina, I'm wondering if I'm to be respectful of the culture, yet still try to connect. What do you know if the Head Start program out there takes advantage of what your services are? Because they work with families, which means the adults are part of the program. And sometimes they'll share their need for help, say with substance abuse. I'm just wondering if you know how that process is going now.
That's a good question. I have not heard from the Head Start. I work with a lot of the service industry businesses, like with their gas stations, their grocery markets for the employees, because a lot of times that they are finding syringes in their bathrooms, their public bathrooms. So I work with them in terms of making sure that they are trained for naloxone. But I've never talked to the Head Start, which I think is a great idea. I wrote that down and I'm going to reach out to them. And we do offer naloxone training monthly. I do go to the tribal communities, which I get some participant. Like I said, it's really hard. The stigma is really kind of misunderstood out here. Sometimes I only get like a couple of people and sometimes I get like a full house. But I look at it this way. I just set the table and I just see who comes to dinner and I just keep going. And if it's like I said, 1 or 2 people, I'm happy. I'll give them out four boxes of Narcan. But yeah, I'm going to try to get there to them. That is such a great idea. I'm so glad you brought that up.
Thank you.
And then, so Raquel, we're just dropping in the website information. And again, those PowerPoints are saved on our Canvas page, so you'll have access to those. Okay. Well, now for the, not that your presentation wasn't one of our favorite parts, but now we're gonna actually hear about a case and then we will be talking about it. And Kurt Phillips is presenting the case for us.
So my name's Kurt Phillips. I'm a hub member. I'm actually presenting this on behalf of someone else. All right, so this presentation today is about a 3-month-old female. She lives with an adoptive mother and father and a non-biological younger sister who's about 1.5 years old. Has difficulty both at home and in the preschool setting. So initially, she was having a lot of problems with tantrums. They clocked her at 35 tantrums per week. It ranged in intensity. The difficult behavior had subsided, but increased again once she started preschool, where she was attending 4 days a week for 3 hours a day. Sleep has always been an issue, and parents or the grandparents, I guess adoptive parents, reported she's getting 1 less hour per night than is recommended for her age. She has some behavior such as throwing objects, screaming, flailing her body, going after the family dog, laying on her sister, refusing food, and showing aggression, hitting or throwing things at others against the mother, father, sister, and cousin. So it's non-discriminate as far as who the behaviors are against. None yet appears at preschool. That would be the only exception. As far as common triggers and stressors, this little girl becomes upset when anything's out of place, when she doesn't get something she wants, and when she doesn't want to do something and is being asked to, or I guess not, maybe forced to, I don't know. She's also observed to lay on top of her sister, chase the dog, pull its tail, lay on top of the dog. So just really having some behaviors that are affecting other people. Her sleep is poor. Excuse me, just getting over a cough. Sleep's poor, and she's waking up multiple times, reported up to 20 times a night. As far as things that have been tried, give me a second. So some of the behavior techniques, specific praise and reducing that attention verbally when there's misbehavior. Mom does it well, not sure of dad's success or his buy-in with regard to that specific behavior modification technique. Also, there's visual schedules. They've been successful, but they have to be really detailed and specific. So that makes it difficult to always have the visual schedule ready for. The weight card has had minimal success. As far as turn taking, With adults, there seems to be more success turn taking. With the sister, not so much success, keeping in mind the sister is only a year and a half. As far as sensory input, they were the occupational therapist that they were working with recommended using deep pressure following tantrums to help calm her down. Let's see. The other things that they've tried, PCIT, which is parent-child interactive therapy, which is an intensive therapy with the parents and the child. From what I understand of it, it's a bug in ear. So you have someone on one side of a two-way mirror somewhere where they're observing, giving feedback to the parents as the parents interact with the child. Parents haven't followed through on that referral yet. There's also, with regard to feeding, they're offering reinforcement for each bite that this child takes of their food. Also, using a high chair as a safe place or a time away from the attention. When she's having tantrums and that, they'll use a high chair as that safe place. I'm guessing because she doesn't sit in timeout on her own without getting up. The jewelry, just chewable jewelry, is I believe what that is. They're trying to replace the pacifier. And so it's had some success using this jewelry. And then also, as far as helping her sleep, they've tried some medicine, melatonin, not successful. Tenex, which I'm not sure what Tenex is, but I imagine it's a sleep drug, knocked her out is what the reference was there. So as far as goals and barriers, one of the things that they'd like to see is to find ideas around pacifier use. Obviously, it helps the kid to soothe, but the speech pathologist feels due to feeding and chewing concerns that the speech path is discouraging that. And so one of the things we'll look at when we look at the questions is strategies we can help to help the child soothe. Also, another goal is to gain ideas around safe holds. What's the message they send to kids versus a message of time away from attention in the high chair? So holding and coddling the kid or keeping them safe in a sitting on the lap type of thing versus having the child in the high chair, which is away from that attention. And then some ideas around sleep. Any other ideas other than that 10x that knocks her out and the melatonin that doesn't work to help them and be able to get her in some better sleep habits. So here's the questions that we will, when we go to breakout groups, we'll entertain. First, what strategies and tools can we use to help the child sleep? Any of you that have had kids that haven't been good sleepers know that this is gold. If you can help this parent with this, alone will decrease, not speaking from personal experience, will help decrease stress in the home. Also, what would you recommend the family do regarding conflicting recommendations from the speech therapist about discontinuing the pacifier cold turkey or quick fading, and the recommendation for slow fading by the person that put this presentation to us to present. So the slow versus the quick, getting rid of the pacifier. The third question, the transition back into the home after preschool is especially difficult due to mood and behavior. What routine or activities might you suggest to help that transition go better? And then the final one, what other strategies or resources could help this child and her family? And so around sleep, around getting rid of the pacifier and transitioning to the home after the preschool, and then just a variety. So as I said, because I'm doing this for someone, I don't have a lot of information, but if there's any questions you have, feel free to shoot them out and we'll see if we do have any answers, we'll let you know. Otherwise, we'll just have to go under the assumption that we'll do our best.
Kurt, I have a question.
Sure.
Do you know if she's had a sleep study done?
You know what? I don't know. Janelle also might have information. Do you know, Janelle, if this person's had a sleep study done?
So they have not had a sleep study done yet.
I think that would be one of my first recommendations for sleep, because she may be having sleep apnea, and that's why she's waking up so much at night. So that might be one thing they would want to consider.
Great.
That's an awesome one. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to work on dividing into groups. providing 1 or 2 ideas of the topics. So Kurt and Wendy, I don't know who is in your group that you want to have lead. Okay, are they all closed, Shayna? Yes, they are.
I think so, yeah.
Okay,
I
so
hate to ask, but you took the notes. Do you mind?
Yeah, no, I'd be
Okay,
happy to
thank you.
share.
I know you got a cough though.
No, it's okay. I'm milking that cough for everything I can get, right, Janelle?
what? Yeah,
So I'm milking my cough. Actually, we had the one on transition from preschool and then other ideas. We did dive into a couple of the others, the pacifier and the sleeping, as we got toward the end of that. But one of the things that I really liked about it that I probably wouldn't have thought of as a parent is as they transition from preschool to home, it seems like that transition time is the problem, or there's a problem in that time. And just looking at how structured the preschool is, and if the preschool is really structured, instead of going from the structure of preschool to the non-structure of home, perhaps, to have kind of a transition period, maybe 30 minutes or something, where they'd come home and the first thing they'd do would be hang up their jacket like they do at preschool and sit down for a snack like they do at preschool, and then maybe help mom do a job. And so it's a softer transition rather than the abrupt, very structured to less structured. It can be very structured and then kind of transition down over a half an hour of time to where you go through a structured event and then back into your regular day where you just go play and do whatever you want to do. I thought that was really good. There's a lot of really good suggestions here, but that's one of them that stuck out to me.
that's awesome. That's a great one that we tend to forget about as we're making those transitions back to home. Becky, you're unmuted. So how about from your group? I don't know who might be your spokesperson or note taker.
I think both of us took some notes, but but it's interesting because we talked a little bit about the transitions as well, like Kurt did. But we kind of figured they were going from structure to structure. So having like a half an hour of just time to themselves to decompress. We thought that might be helpful, but it does depend on what they're going into after they've been into the structure of preschool. So with the sleep and the bed, we talked about bedtime routines. Like especially if the visual chart's working, and a routine is really helpful to this child, then like doing singing, story time, get ready for bed so that they know what's coming next. They can see all of that, helps them get ready and prepared for bed. And then even talked about having like a little check mark that they could mark off after they've done it. That could be something that would help. We talked about the deep pressure. We weren't sure if that really was helpful, that the OT had suggested or not, but maybe doing that deep pressure before bed, like having a weighted blanket and doing burrito rolls and stuff like that to help with that. Possibly having something that help with the smells in the room, to like lavender to help calm, putting on some lotion before bed. I know last month we had Cindy and she talked about that BiTap. That was a game changer at my house, for my son to help sleeping. So either tapping or doing something like that could help. Having a white noise machine. And then something that I thought was really helpful we talked about was having the rest of the house kind of calm down so that like everyone kind of helped them prepare for bedtime instead of say dad's still up watching TV loud or whatever. Like everybody started to get ready for bed to help with that transition. And then adding choices. So like letting them pick out their PJs, what noises, what music they're listening to, what books they read. And even how to get to their room to go to sleep, if they're jumping, hopping, crawling, that kind of stuff, and picking out a blanket or a stuffed animal. So those are the things we talked about for sleep.
Awesome. Those are great suggestions. Thank you all for sharing that. We will compile a list of all of the resources and they will be on our Canvas page. So if any of the participants want to go back and look at the full list of resources, and then Kurt, we will email those to you so that you can share those with the other person. Here is our email, so projectscope@aggies.usu.edu. I thank you all for joining today's session. Our next one will be February 14th. Same time, same place, and we will be talking about stigma awareness. So another really exciting topic. Thank you all for your time today.